Thank you, Surendra. Can you hear me? No?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you. And first of all, I would like to thank SISGS for giving me this opportunity to be part of this panel. Given the political situation in Sri Lanka, the change of government, I think if you look at how India and Sri Lanka relations are going to unfold in the future, I think I would like to mention that there are three commonalities briefly, broadly between the two governments in India and Sri Lanka. One is that both the governments are not bound by any domestic compulsions. That is one, because both of them have majority in parliament, even to take any decision on the foreign policy issues. That is one, and both the governments are also in Sri Lanka and India are facing similar challenges. That is the global pandemic and the need to minimize the impact of the pandemic on domestic economy. That can be done through bilateral engagement as well as through the regional engagement. That is one aspect that both of them are have a common interest. And thirdly, one aspect is that one commonality we can say that there seems to be convergence of interest, at least at the bilateral level, to interest in approach towards the security related issues within the region as well as among even at the bilateral level. I think SLPP's manifesto also talks about giving priority to the utmost priority to the security related issues other than the people-centric economic policies. So even the post-Easter Sunday attacks, both the countries also reiterated the need for developing a common approach towards all forms of terrorism and also non-traditional security issues which are emerging within the region. So these are the commonalities, I think, more or less within this framework. I think both the countries are going to work also in the future. This has been reflected in various statements given and also during the official visits between, when Gotabaya Rajapaksa had come to India also after assuming the presidency, he also spoke about, he said that one has to move beyond whatever happened during the Rajapaksa time, one has to move beyond that and last tenure of Rajapaksa and work towards the benefit of the region and also for the benefit of both the countries. So there has been a misunderstanding, so one has to move beyond that. And also, and one important aspect which have been mentioning in various statements is that Sri Lanka will not do anything against India's interest or act against India's interest or against India's concerns. That is one other aspect that even the president has mentioned. Even recently, the foreign secretary of Sri Lanka, who has been appointed recently, has also said it, made a statement. So as far as strategic security considerations are concerned, it will follow an India first approach. That is a current position taken by this government, SLPP government. So, and I think this aspect is also influenced by the fact that, Gotabaya Rajapaksa had experience of working with India in 2009 to Troika arrangement. So that is where there is a kind of, a working relationship already exists between India and Sri Lanka on this security front. I think therefore this aspect is going to dominate the bilateral relations in the near future. That is one. And one more thing about the security aspect is that whether during Rajapaksa's tenure, the last tenure, Mahinda Rajapaksa's tenure, the China factor actually emerged in India-Sri Lanka relations, and whether this will going to continue or this will going to recede is another question, which I think it will continue. I think it will continue to be India's concern whether how they are going to deal with China, and whether we'll have any security implications because of China's presence in the island nation. Because one thing about one statement made by Rajapaksa also, even the foreign secretary, that basically Sri Lanka is looking towards more security cooperation with India, and when it comes to the economic front, they would like to have they're open to various investments by any other foreign power. They're open to particularly maybe China, Japan, whichever can invest in their country. So the economic front, they're actually looking for other avenues of cooperation, not just India. That is one important factor, that important aspect that they've been talking about. That is one. But the concerns expressed by India, even in the past, whether about the China factor in Sri Lanka will be addressed in a transparent manner under this government is something which one has to look at. That is one. I think what Sri Lanka is expecting, that is the first aspect I think the India-Sri Lanka relations are going to be centered on in the near future. And another aspect is the economic aspect of cooperation, which has been there. There is a continuity in it, particularly after when India's unsuccessful attempts at resolving the political conflict in ethnic conflict in Sri Lanka. I think the focus has been shifted to the economic cooperation later in from 1990s and 2000 onwards. So there is a continuity in that. India's development assistance has been well appreciated even within Sri Lanka also. And during the last tenure national unity government which was in place, India tried to expand that development assistance even to the south of the country by giving ambulances, emergency services, building, and also promised to build houses even in the south of the country, not just in the north and eastern part of the country, which was affected by the war. So there is a continuity and common understanding about the development assistance, and Sri Lanka expects India to do something for the people of Sri Lanka, even to the south of the country, by investing or helping in small economic projects, skill developments and capacity building, those kind of projects. I think Sri Lanka expects India to help even in the future. So that is where I think the economic aspect of relations will continue. But at the same time, what is expected by India, like increasing India's investments in Sri Lanka, is again, there is a dilemma here, because even just before the elections also, there are a lot of protests regarding India's investments in Sri Lanka. East Container Terminal, there was protest, and Rajapaksa had to intervene in that. Mahinda Rajapaksa had to intervene in that matter. So we can say that there are going to be constraints regarding India's investments in Sri Lanka, because there are a lot of suspicion, there are a lot of I think there are trust deficit between India and Sri Lanka in this matter particularly. So we don't know clearly what is going to happen, whether they're going to really implement with the already existing projects in Sri Lanka, or they're going to, or whether or the economic MOU which was signed in 27 during Ranil Wickremesinghe's tenure, whether they're going to even implement those projects in the future is also very much uncertain. And one more thing is that it's not that Sri Lanka doesn't witness protest about other investments also. Like China, regarding China also, there were other protests during the last government, under the last government. About US role also, there were protests also. So I think there's a sense of like whichever government, whichever country comes into Sri Lanka, there's a threat perception always exists within Sri Lanka, I think, among the of Sri Lanka. So that I think one has to address how India is going to address that through joint projects, if not direct India's investments there, through joint projects, how one can go about it. Whether this government will give that space for India to actually, implement those joint projects in future is very uncertain. That is one. And also one example is that even the enhancing economic cooperation under FTA is also was like in CAPA was cancelled during Rajapaksa's time after around 16-18 rounds of negotiations. It was shelved because of the apprehensions by a few of the professional groups within Sri Lanka. Even ETCA was tried by Ranil Wickremesinghe, even that was not concluded as for satisfaction of India. So I don't know whether they're really going to work on it in the future. That is one. That is one. And if we look at the political aspect of cooperation, I think there are, even in the economic aspect of cooperation, for instance, I think Sri Lanka would like, Gotabaya said that he's going to develop Hambantota, Colombo, Jaffna, and Trincomalee districts they're basically expected to develop as multi-dimensional commercial cities. So whether India can contribute in that development is I don't know. That is also a question, whether Sri Lanka expects India to help in the development of those cities as commercial hubs within the region. Because if you look at the foreign policy overall orientation of the last government in Sri Lanka, the focus has been to make Sri Lanka a commercial hub in the Indian Ocean region. They also looked at Sri Lanka was projected as a gateway to South and Southeast Asia. Basically, they looked at Singapore as a model to develop, since in the post-war scenario, how Sri Lanka can take benefit or examples from other Indian Ocean neighboring countries and develop itself as a hub. I think the focus was mainly on that. So that's the reason I think was also given the continuation of relations with China was also, it helped them to link both two, because even given the reservations even Ranil Wickremesinghe expressed during his tenure, the China investments continued as it is. So even this will continue, I think, even under this government too. And if you look at the one aspect, I think the political aspect of cooperation, I think last few years we have seen under the national unity government, robust political engagement, high-level visits, a lot of them have taken place. And Prime Minister visited Sri Lanka on both ways, even both the Prime Minister and the President had come to India, and so those engagements were very robust. But if you look at the problem here is that Sri Lanka is still to create a new inclusive constitutional order, which is acceptable to all the sections of Sri Lanka. And there are also some of the accountability issues which are also pending. So one of the solutions for this is the constitutional amendment. That was the last government had done. It tried to bring in a constitution which is more acceptable through the people of Sri Lanka, through public discourse, by taking public opinion on the constitutional change. But I don't think this government will go for it, because from the beginning they were opposed to the exercise itself, because they felt that that will not represent the interest of all the, particularly the, it will not help Sri Lanka's sovereignty and on those grounds. So in this case, what India expects is to at least follow some of the maybe the reconciliation measures, maybe because India supported Sri Lanka in UNHCR, so maybe that those reconciliation measures can be implemented to some extent. That is one. And the 13th Amendment, India has been, various statements, if you see, that India has been saying that it is for the interest of the Tamil community in Sri Lanka that one has to implement the 13th Amendment. But even here, I don't think Gotabaya Rajapaksa also made a statement that it will not be possible to implement the 13th Amendment. The changes are needed in it. So we don't know exactly, not define what kind of changes are needed. But even here, there is uncertainty whether the 13th Amendment will be implemented. And I mean, even within Sri Lanka, there is no consensus about that amendment. So I think India will not also press for it. I think the status quo will continue as it is, unless I think there are constitutional changes which will actually impact, again, if at all there is a constitutional change, because I think now the government's focus will be on dealing with the pandemic and the impact of the pandemic on Sri Lanka. Even in future, if at all they would like to change the constitution. So if at all there are some issues which will come up during that course, then India might have to take a position also, because UNHCR also has given around one and a half year is there for Sri Lanka to implement various recommendations made. So I don't know what kind of position India will take. Right now, there is no strong opposition even within Tamil Nadu also about it. So and also there are no domestic compulsions, as I said in the beginning. So India might, on ethnic question, I think the status quo might continue in future. That is what I feel. And also another area of common interest between India and Sri Lanka is the peace and security in the Indian Ocean region. Even here, I think Sri Lanka will try to leverage its position in the Indian Ocean region. So it will try to engage with various powers within the region and with the extra-region powers also. But just one example was the way they have interacted with the US government, in the last NUG government, accepting the Indo-Pacific framework also, as well as now they're also part of the BRI. So there is a kind of taking advantage of various big powers and the incentives they get from various powers for the benefit of Sri Lanka. I think that's how Sri Lanka looks at it. So within that framework, whether India can really fit in, or where India can work within that, within that maybe constraints or challenges or opportunities, that is one aspect to one can look into, or it will only unfold, I think, in the future. So I think in conclusion, I would like to say that one is that emphasis on enhancing economic cooperation investments will continue, but it will progress as expected by India is not clear. And the second is that priority will be given to the security aspect of cooperation. That is very much clear, given the nature of both the governments in India and Sri Lanka. And the third is that political issues between the two countries will continue to be dominant in coming years, unless any other international actors shows a lot of interest in internal domestic ethnic politics of Sri Lanka. I think those issues will continue to be dominant in coming years. And that's all.